Okay, so in this third lecture, we will just review the last lecture and then we will start on some of the new structures which we could not cover in the last lecture. So, in the last lecture we covered various ceramic structures which were derived on the rules made by Pauling, which are 5 of them, and those rules are, as I said, they are not fixed set of rules, but are the guidelines which help in formation of ceramic structures. And as a result, we divided the ceramic structures in 3 broad categories. The first one was the structures which were based on FCC packing of anions, and second group would be non FCC, but is still orthogonal or cubic structures, and the third would be HCP packing of anions. So, in the FCC packing we looked at structures like your sodium chloride based structures, or which are called as rock salt structures. Then second set of structures we looked were fluorite and anti-fluorite structure, and now we will look at another important FCC structure, which is zinc blende structure. Now, in this structure the chemical formula would be Mx. So, you have for each cation you have an anion. So, valence of both cation and anion is equal, and the examples of such ceramic materials could be zinc sulphide or beryllium oxide, zinc sulphide or zinc oxide, silicon carbide. Now, presence of silicon carbide here gives you a clue as to what kind of structure would be, because remember when we discussed diamond cubic structure, we said that from the diamond cubic structure you could also form silicon carbide structure, except that FCC positions were filled by silicon and that tetrahedral positions were filled by carbon, and other compounds which show the structures are like gallium arsenide and gallium phosphide, etc. In this case this S would be capital sulfur. Okay. Now, this is a structure which is followed in compounds which have some covalent character. For example, zinc oxide, zinc sulphide have this character, and as a result of covalent bonding, not only radius ratio predicts tetrahedral coordination, but also covalent bonding requires the tetrahedral coordination. So, you might find in some cases that radius ratio could be slightly off. The predicted radius ratio for tetrahedral coordination is between 0.225 to 414. So, for instance, in case of zinc and beryllium oxides or sulphides, this is pretty much in line, but for some compounds this may be slightly off, and that is because the requirement of tetrahedral coordination due to covalent bonding. So, all the Pauling's rules are obeyed in this case in most cases, but there may be some deviations due to requirement of tetrahedral coordination by bonding. And here again the anions form the FCC lattice, and again the cations occupy tetrahedral interstices. Now, to maintain the stoichiometry you can see, because for each cation you have one anion or vice versa, only half of the tetrahedral sites can be filled, because in FCC structure there are 2 tetrahedral sites per atom. So, as a result only half of the tetrahedral sites are filled. So, now we will look in the next slide what the structure is. Now, the structure is so you have a FCC structure made by these blue anions, which could be, for example, in case of zinc sulphide sulfur atom, and tetrahedral sites there could be 8 of them and only 4 of them are filled. So, the arrangement of filled tetrahedral sites is very similar to actually what you have in diamond. So, for instance, you have 2 tetrahedral sites filled in the top half of the crystal and another 2 filled in the bottom half of the crystal, which are rotated by 90 degrees. So, if these 2 tetrahedral sites were in the location, for instance, if you make a plan view. So, this is, let us say, the plan view. This is 001 structure. So, these would be my sulfur atoms. So, this would be, all the corner ones would be of 01 and this would be 01 as well, and all these edges one would be at half, and xy is self explanatory. So, tetrahedral positions, if in the top half of the crystal, let me just change the color. So, if in the top half of the crystal the atoms were, the interstitial atoms were at 1 by 4 position, z is equal to 1 by 4, x y is self explanatory. In the bottom half of the crystal, these would be at 3 by 4. So, this is what it is shown in this 3-dimensional structure. So, this would be so a zinc sulphide or zinc oxide zinc blend structure is very similar to diamond cubic structure, except the fact that the tetrahedral and the face centered cubic lattice ions are different. Now, again in this structure, the corner of the lattice can be put on sulfur ion, and the corner of the lattice can also be put on the cation. So, which is zinc. So, no matter where you put the corner of the unit cell will always remain as FCC. So, in this case also the motif, so lattice type would be FCC, because both cation and anion sublattices are FCC in nature, and motif would be, if your anion is at FCC site, then cation would be at 1 by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 4, which is let us say 0 0 0. Once you define FCC lattice, 0 0 would, as I said many times, it would fill all the FCC sites. Similarly, if you define 1 by 4 1 by 4 for M, this is sufficient to fill all other tetrahedral sites, which would be all the 4 tetrahedral sites, not all the 8. So, this is zinc sulphide structure. The next structure, which is again based on FCC packing of anions, is spinel structure. Now, the formula for this spinel structure is Ab2O4. Typically, the A ion would be a ion with +2 valence, and B would be an ion with +3 valence. Another way to represent this formula is to consider this as a mixture of 2 oxides. One of them would be AO and second them would be B2O3. So, you could consider this as a mixture of 2 sublattices, AO sublattice and B2O3 sublattice. This is what some people like to think in terms of. This is a very important structure, because many engineering materials like iron oxide, Fe3O4, nickel iron oxide, cobalt iron oxide, many magnetic materials, they follow this structure. So, in this structure, now since you have FCC packing and two different kind of anions, both the cations cannot go in, 2 different kind of cations, sorry, not the anions. So, both the cations cannot occupy the same interstitial site. So, radius ratio predicts that one of them goes to tetrahedral and another of them goes to octahedral. So, you have in this structure, since you have FCC packing of anions, so 4 oxygen atom will give you 8 tetrahedral and 4 octahedral sites. Now, one unit cell of spinel is made up of 8 FCC cells, which means total one big unit cell will contain 32 atoms, out of which 8 will be 32 so one unit cell will contain 32 oxygen atoms, 8 A type atoms and 16 B type atoms. So, total it would be 32 plus 24 anions plus cations. Now, in this structure, you can see from the stoichiometry that not all interstitial sites can be filled. So, as I said, in one type of spinel structure, one particular site is filled by one cation and another particular site is filled by another cation. In another kind of spinel structure, there is mixed occupancy at one site, not on the other side, but at one side, and we will see how it changes in 2 spinel structures. So, basically in this structure you have a partial occupancy of both tetrahedral as well as octahedral sites, and no matter what type of spinel it is and how these are filled, you have 1/8 filling of tetrahedral site. So, in one formula unit, out of 8 only 1 tetrahedral site is filled, and octahedral side you have 4 per formula unit, and out of 4 2 are filled. So, in a unit cell, if you have 8 unit cells, 8 FCC cells, which means 8 formula units, 8 formula units is going to give you 64 tetrahedral sites, and 32 octahedral sites in total. So, out of 64 tetrahedral sites in one big unit cell of spinel structure, you have 8 tetrahedral sites which are filled, and out of 32 octahedral sites, 16 are filled. And we will see how cations arrange themselves in these 64 tetrahedral and 32 octahedral sites. And these two forms of spinel structures, depending upon the distribution of cations in the interstitial sites, define either a normal spinel or an inverse spinel. So, in case of normal spinel, you do not have intermixing of cations in the interstitial sites, whereas in case of inverse spinel, you have intermixing of cations in one of the interstitial sites. So, we will see what these are. So, in case of normal spinel, chemical formula can be represented as A in one kind of one bracket and both the B's in one bracket. What this means is that all the A's occupy one interstitial site, one type of interstitial site, and all the B's occupy another type of interstitial site. Now, now if you go back to my previous statements in which I said that 1/8 of tetrahedral are filled. So, 1/8 tetrahedral and half octahedral. So, now you can understand 1/8 tetrahedral would mean you have all the A ions going to tetrahedral sites in the normal spinel structure and all the B ions going to octahedral sites, occupying half of them in the normal spinel structure. And you can very well apply the bond strength rule to verify the stoichiometry. How do you do that? So, bond strength would be, for instance, bond strength of A, it would be what valence of A, which would be 2, and the coordination of A, which is 4, and this gives you 1/2. Similarly, bond strength of B is valence of B, which is 3, and coordination of B, which is 6, octahedral coordination, this is 1/2. Now, how do you make it equal to, how do you verify the stoichiometry from this? Now, to work out the bond strength of oxygen for both of them is slightly tricky. So, what I am going to do is that I am going to work out the bond strength of, I am going to work out the valence of oxygen. If I get -2, which means the coordinations which I am calculating are correct, and if I am not doing it properly, then the valence of oxygen will not be correct. So, oxygen valence in terms of both the bond strength would be, so bond strength of A multiplied by how many oxygens are surrounded by A type of atom, which means coordination of oxygen by A, plus bond strength of B multiplied by coordination of oxygen by B. Okay. So, OA or OB. Now, bond strength of A is half, and spinel structure, what happens is oxygen is surrounded by one A atom and 3 B atoms. As a result, the answer that you get is 2. So, this is 2. So, oxygen valence is 2, which means the stoichiometry, which means the coordinations that we are talking about are correct. On the other hand, in inverse spinel structure, what happens is the chemical formula is written as BAbO4. Now, it is again Ab2O4, but the way A and B occupy these interstitial sites changes the order. So, what I have done is I have put B separately and another B and A together. What this means is that one B, which means 50% of total B ions, occupy tetrahedral sites. So, this B will go to tetrahedral site and these two will go to octahedral, which means A and remaining B will go to octahedral site. Example of this, many ferrites follow this kind of structure, such as Fe3O4, which can be conveniently written as FeO.Fe2O3 or NiFe2O4, which is also a mixture of NiO and Fe2O3, or COO cobalt ferrite, which is COO.Fe2O3 or COFe2O4. So, many of these materials follow this inverse spinel structure, and these are all engineering materials because they are used in magnetic applications. So, how does the structure look like? Structure is rather complex. So, you have this cubic unit cell, a big cubic unit cell which contains 8 of these little FCC unit cells made by oxygen atoms. So, total 64 oxygen atoms would be present in one big unit cell of spinel structure. Okay. And as a result, now you can work out the B and A numbers. Now, here if B goes to octahedral site for the sake of convenience, and A go to tetrahedral sites. So, this is basically a normal spinel structure. So, these are the so this is for example your oxygen, and you can see that how many. So, the green atoms are A atoms, red atoms are oxygen atoms, and the blue atoms are your red atom are B atoms, and blue atom is your oxygen atom. And this is a very complex structure. It is rather easy to visualize the tetrahedral site coordination, but it is little tricky to visualize the octahedral coordination of B. So, you can see in each layer, for example, you see here that each of these is surrounded by 3 of them on one side, but it is also surrounded by other 3. So, if 2 B are on this side, there will be another 2 B on this side. So, if you draw a adjacent unit cell and then another adjacent unit cell on this side, you will have one of them here and another of them here, and there will be another one on top. So, this would make an octahedral coordination of B. And in case of inverse spinel, these red ones would be half B and A, and this would be half of B. Of half B means 50% B. So, let me just modify this a little bit. So, this would be 50% B, 50% B in case of inverse, and here in this case it is normal. Okay. So, this is a ceramic structure. If you want to learn about how this structure is formed from layer to layer, I would suggest that you look at the book of Kingery, which is Science of Ceramics, and where the layer by layer formation of this structure is explained in a very nice manner. So, what you would do is that you would first fill one particular site, then second particular site, and this goes in a sort of helical kind of manner, so that you get the repeatability of the structure. Okay. Now, this takes us to the end of most common structures which are based on FCC packing of anions. So, we had discussed rock salt structures, fluorite structure, zinc sulphide structure or zinc blende structure, and spinel structures. This takes us to this is followed by structures which are not based on exactly FCC kind of packing of anions. There is some similarity with respect to previous structures, but the structure itself is not FCC. It's more or less it's primitive structure. It could be primitive cubic, or it could be primitive tetragonal or primitive orthorhombic structures. So, we look at some of these structures in the subsequent slides. So, the first in the series is perovskite structure. Now, this perovskite structure is a very important structure, because many engineering materials follow this kind of structure, and many ferroelectric or manganite kind of materials, they follow this structure. And the formula for this particular structure, the compounds which follow this structure is AbO3. So, where two cations are A and B, and an ion is of course the oxygen. And the most common examples of materials which follow this structure are barium titanate, strontium titanate and lead titanate. And there are many other compounds which I will show, whose names I will give it to you in the subsequent course of time. And now, how this structure is formed, again Pauling's rules apply, and based on the radius ratios, one predicts 12-fold coordination of A ion and 6-fold coordination of B ion. So, naturally you can see, since you have 12-fold coordination of A ion, the A ion tends to be much more bigger as compared to B ion, which is octahedrally or 6-fold coordinated. In this structure, the difference with respect to previous structures is, here oxygen atoms form a FCC like lattice, but not all the FCC positions are occupied. So, so you can conceive of this structure as, you make a cube here, okay, and what you do is that, if I change the color, then all the face centered positions are occupied by oxygen, all the face centers, but I leave the corners empty. Now, this does not make a FCC lattice, but a FCC like lattice whose crystal system is again primitive cubic. Now, what I do next is, I fill the empty site, which is the corner site, with another kind of atom. So, I choose the bigger atom, which is the barium in barium titanate, so this would be your A atom or barium in barium titanate. Now, where does titanium go? I am saying it should go to 6-fold coordination. 6-fold is octahedral coordination. Where is the octahedral coordinated site in this kind of structure? It would again be at the center of the unit cell. So, I will have the center of the unit cell, and if you want to draw the octahedra would be this. If you connect these oxygen atoms and then connect with the top oxygen atom and the bottom oxygen atom. So, this is an octahedra right in the middle of the unit cell. So, you can see this would be your B atom, and all these blue ones are oxygen atoms. So, this is how this structure is formed. You can again apply the bond strength rule to work out the symmetry, to work out the stoichiometry. So, bond strength of, you can calculate bond strength of A ion. So, A ion is plus 2 divided by its coordination 12, that would be 1 by 6. Bond strength of B is plus 4 in case of barium titanate, and this would be divided by 6. So, this would be 2 by 3. So, oxygen valence is given as 1 by 6 multiplied by how many A ions surround an oxygen plus bond strength of B, and how many B ions surround an oxygen atoms. So, this would be 1 by 6 into 4 plus 2 by 3 into 2. So, there are, if you look at the structure, there will be 4 A atoms which surround each oxygen atom, and there will be 2 titanium atoms which surround each oxygen atom, and this will work out to 2. So, which means your stoichiometry is correct. So, this gives you correct stoichiometry as a result of correct coordination. So, the structure looks like this. Green atoms would be A atoms or barium atom, and the blue center atom would be B atom or the titanium atom, and all the face centered atoms would be oxygen atoms. And you can see that all these 6 oxygen atoms make a oxygen octahedra, at center of which is occupied by a smaller sized atom. Octahedral view would look something like this. This is a polyhedral view. So, you have 8 of these octahedras. Now, in this case, if you notice, the corner of the unit cell has been shifted from barium to titanium atom, and now since titanium is at the corner of the unit cell, the corner of the unit cell also contains these octahedra. So, 8 octahedra at 8 corners of the cell, and middle of the cell is occupied by big barium atom, and this barium atom is coordinated by 12 oxygen atoms, making it a dodecahedra. Dodecahedra is the coordination of each of these barium atom. So, in this case now if you were thinking that the lattice type would be FCC, you are not correct, because for FCC lattice all 4 FCC positions must have been occupied by oxygen. Now, in this case only 3 face centered positions were occupied by oxygen, corners were empty and they were occupied by cations. So, lattice type is primitive cubic. So, we can define this structure as 5 primitive cubic lattices, 3 of anions and 2 of cations interpenetrating into each other. So, this is a primitive cubic lattice, and the motif or the formula unit is AbO3. So, one unit cell contains one formula unit, which means it is a primitive lattice, and A ion goes to 0 site, B ion goes to half site, and oxygen goes to half 0, 0 half and half 0 half sites. Notice, since the lattice type is primitive cubic, I had to define all the oxygen positions. If it was FCC, then I only need to define oxygen or any other ion at 0 and rest would be automatically formed in FCC type of manner by just translating each of these by half 0 translation. As I said, there is one formula unit per cell. Coordination, B is surrounded by 6 oxygen atoms, making an oxygen octahedra, which are shared at the corners if you looked at the previous picture, and A is surrounded by 12 oxygen atoms, which make a dodecahedra, which touch the faces of octahedra. So, the common point between dodecahedra and octahedra is the face. There are not only you have AbO3 kind of compounds, but you also have some other type of perovskite compounds. So, naturally, if you have A2 plus and B4 plus, it would be BaTiO3, PbTiO3, calcium titanate, SrTiO3, strontium titanate. All these are very well known ferroelectric oxides, and you can also have A3 plus, B3 plus, O3. So, here instead of having 2 by A2 and B4, you have A3 and B3. So, 3 plus valence gives rise to compounds like lanthanum aluminate, lanthanum galliate or bismuth ferrite. Again, very important engineering ceramics used in many device applications, either as films or substrates. And then you have mixed perovskites, where one of these cations, typically B, can be a mixture of 2 cations. So, for instance, you can form a compound of formula A2 plus and then B2 plus, B5 plus. Now, to maintain the stoichiometry and the charge neutrality, B2 plus is 1 by 3. So, one third of B sites are filled by B2 plus, and another 2/3 of B sites are occupied by a 5 plus cation. So, one such example is lead magnesium niobate. This is also called as PMN. PMN makes a very important material like PMNPT in solid solution with lead titanate. So, PMNPT, which is a very important, very well known relaxer material. So, here you could see that 1/3 of octahedral sites are occupied by central, 1/3 of octahedral sites were occupied by magnesium, and 2/3 of octahedral sites were occupied by niobium. You can also have, there is a slight mistake here, this should be B3, hang on, no, 5 plus, yeah, that is correct. Now, instead of having 1/3 and 2/3 occupation of B site, you can have half occupation of B site, but rather what you will have here is you have one B cation, half of the B sites would be occupied by +3 valence cation, and half of the B sites would be occupied by +5 cation. So, you can now the average of these anyway gives you 4. So, this is very much similar to A2 plus B4 plus O3, except that B sites 4 is now averaged out by half of B3 plus and half of B5 plus cations. So, one example is lead scandium tantalate, which is again a very extensively researched material, dielectric material. So, these are some of the examples of perovskite structures. So, these are again, just to reiterate, these are not FCC based structure, these are simple primitive cubic structures, where you can imagine the structure as being interpenetration of 3 anion sites, 3 anion cubic sublattices and 2 cation cubic sublattices. One important parameter which defines perovskite structure is tolerance factor. Now, tolerance factor is given as sum of radius of A ion and oxygen ion divided by root 2 of radius of sum of radius of B ion and oxygen ion. Now, for a perfect cubic perovskite, this would be 1, and you can see how. I mean, if you had this kind of structure, so if these were all cations, sorry, anions, oxygen atoms, and then you will have in the center you will have the smaller atom, which is the cation, smaller cation such as titanium, and then you will have another one would be your bigger cation, which is for example barium in barium titanate. Now, imagine that all these ions were touching each other and cations were perfectly touching all the anions, then the sum of this lattice parameter, which is nothing but, so this is your lattice parameter A. So, A is equal to 2 RO plus 2 RB, correct, and then you have this side which is A root 2, and A root of 2 is equal to 2 RA plus 2 RO, or A is equal to root 2 of RA plus RO. So, now if you divide RA plus RO by root 2 of RO plus RB, you will get 1 for a perfect cubic perovskite, but in practice, since the iodic positions are such that they never form T is equal to 1. So, most of the perovskite structure will show deviations from 1, and often what happens is you may also find non-cubic structures, such as distortions may happen into tetragonal or rhombohedral or orthorhombic structures, and this is especially important for, because cubic structures also tend to be centrosymmetric, which means they have a center of symmetry, which is not which if the case, then compound will not be ferroelectric, and to be ferroelectric, since most of these compounds are ferroelectric compounds, it requires that structure be present in non-cubic states such as tetragonal or rhombohedral or orthorhombic. So, many of these perovskite compounds also commonly present in non-cubic forms. So, it is very common in non-cubic structures, and in many of those cases T is never equal to 1, it is always less than 1 in most cases. For example, a material like barium titanate, it has a cubic symmetry only above 120 degrees centigrade, which is also called as Curie temperature, which we will see in subsequent lectures what it is. But Curie temperature is basically transition temperature above which the material is cubic, and below which when you cool it, first it is tetragonal, and then further cooling brings it down to orthorhombic structure as well as rhombohedral structures if you cool it further down room temperature. So, these are your perovskite structured compounds. So, I hope that you have been able to understand the basis of formation of these perovskite compounds. The next structure in this series of structures based on non-FCC looking but not FCC structures is your rhenium oxide structure, on basis of which there are some again useful compounds. So, stoichiometry here is MX3. So, for each cation you have 3 anions. The lattice type again is primitive cubic. This structure is very much similar to perovskite structure, that is why I have put it after perovskite, but there are some differences. So, here the atomic positions are metal occupies 0 0 0 position and the oxygen occupies or the cation occupies as half 0 0, 0 half 0 and 0 0 half positions. So, if you think about it, these are the edge positions. If you make a cube, these would be edge centers and this would be corner of the cube. So, naturally corner of the cube, 8 of these corners will give you 1 atom and there are 12 edges and each edge is shared by 4 unit cells. So, 12 by 4 will give you 3 anions. So, if you look at the coordination number according to radius ratio as well, metal ion is octahedrally coordinated and as a result of requirement of bond strength and to maintain the stoichiometry, the anion has to be linearly coordinated. This rings some bell, like M is octahedrally coordinated and X is linearly coordinated. If you go back to perovskite structure, the coordination of one of the cations was octahedral, okay, and that very cation coordinated the anion in a linear coordination, and that was, if it was AbO3, it was B. So, this structure you can say it is a AbO3 structure with A missing. Okay. So, I can form this structure as, now this is what it is going to look like if I make this structure according to what I have written. So, according to what I have written, this structure is, so I am saying that metal is at 0 0 0. So, this is metal. Or the cation. So, this will effectively make one cation. Anion I am saying is going to these sides. So, these are 12 edges and you have 12 of these anions. Now, this does not ring the bell, right. Now, what I am going to do is that, so this sort of rings the bell that this structure is pretty much similar to what something we have seen before. So, what I am going to do is that instead of keeping the center here, I keep the center here. So, I make another, so you shift it here. So, the best way to understand that is to make a plan view. So, plan view is something like this, okay, and the previous position of atoms is, so you have metal at 0 1 and so these are at the moment 0 1 and oxygen is at, so you have half half so these would be at 0 1 all the, and these would be at half positions, half and 0 1 and the blue one is at 0 1. So, what I am going to do now is I am going to draw another one. So, I am going to draw another unit cell which is going to be here, whose corner at the center of the unit cell. Now, if I put the corner at the center of the unit cell, then this position becomes 0 1. As a result, this position which was 0 1 earlier, it becomes half, this will also become half, and you will have another one here at half and you will have another one here at half, okay. And you will have these oxygen atoms at the, sorry, this would be empty, these are empty, nothing. I will just okay. And where is your cation going to be? So, these were at half and this would become at 0 1 and this cation would become at half. So, this now looks like a AbO3 structure with these big cations missing, which were supposed to be at 0 1, but they are not there, and you have these oxygen atoms which are the phase centers, and these are top and bottom phase centers oxygen atoms, and the middle you have titanium atom. So, this is going to look like a AbO3 kind of structure with a atom missing. The materials which follow the structures are materials like rhenium oxide. Rhenium oxide is the parent compound, that is why it is known as rhenium oxide structure, and other oxides like uranium oxide, tungsten oxide. Tungsten oxide is a very useful material, it is used for electrochromic applications and which is used in also for gas sensing applications. So, this is the structure what it looks like. This is the structure it looks in the form in which I have given you the atomic positions. This is how it looks that way, but you can also say that if you remember in perovskite structure, we drew the perovskite polyhedral model of perovskite structure, where we put the corner of the unit cell at the center position at the corner of the unit cell at the titanium atom. So, this is in this case here you would have so these positions would be now metal positions, and all these 8 metal positions are surrounded by 8 of these 6 of these anions, and the center of the unit cell which was supposed to be, so in this case it is a hole, but A in AbO3 which is missing in this case. So, now I hope you can understand what the structure is like. So, it can be visualized as a perovskite AbO3 structure with empty A sites, not the P, A sites. Okay. And another structure which is not similar to any of these, which falls in the category of primitive cubic structures, a cesium chloride structure. This is a MX type of compound and the parent compound is cesium chloride, and examples of such structures, materials with such structure are cesium chloride, many halides like silver iodide, silver bromide, etc. This who follow this structure. The structure is very simple. The radius ratio is such that it governs the cubic coordination of both the cations as well as anions. So, which means it is a big, in these structure the cation is reasonably big. Lattice type happens to be primitive cubic. Motif, since it is a cubic lattice, if anion you put at 0 0 0, the cation goes to half half half. It looks like a body centered cubic structure, but it is not a body centered cubic structure because anions and cations are different. The two sides are occupied by two different ions. And again, because of primitive structure, you have only one formula unit per unit cell. So, this is the structure like. So, if this is your anion or X atom, then this center one would be, so this would be at 0 0 0 and this would be at half half half. So, you can consider this whole thing as formula units of, so each of these anion is coordinated with, is attached to each of these cations. So, you can say that for this also there will be one cation somewhere, and so basically instead of, so what you can see is that instead of putting one particular sphere at this position, you have put a group of 2 spheres and both of these spheres are different. So, it looks like a BCC structure, but it is not a BCC structure. So, you again go back to concept of motif. So, motif is not one atom, rather it is a group of 2 atoms. So, it is again a simple primitive cubic structure. Now, the structures which are going to follow are not cubic in nature, rather they are perovskite based tetragonal or orthorhombic structures useful as superconductors. Superconductors are the materials which we will see in the end of this lecture series, which have 0 electrical resistance when they are cooled below a certain temperature, which is called as a transition temperature, and they are very useful because simply because they have 0 resistance. So, you can draw large current densities from them. So, these are called as perovskite based structure. Typically, in these structures the perovskite units are stacked along the 001 axis of the unit cell, or which is also called as C axis, and the examples that of such materials are superconductors like yttrium, barium, copper oxide, even some of the ferroelectric materials like bismuth titanate, and some manganites as well follow this kind of structure. We will look at only in the case of 2 materials which are rather interesting as well as little simple. So, one of the example that we take are yttrium barium copper oxide. The parent compound for this is yttrium 3, copper 3 in 3 plus state O9. This is not a superconducting material. However, this contains perovskite units. We will see how in the next slide when I show you the structure, but basically it has a structure which contains perovskite units stacked on top of each other. So, you have one block of so you have the building blocks made by oxygen atoms, and within these building blocks you have yttrium and copper atoms sitting in such a manner as if you see. Now, perovskite unit is characterized by formation of these octahedras. This characteristic octahedra center of which is occupied by a small atom. So, you will see here these octahedras are stacked along C axis. So, it looks as if it is a sequence of perovskite series. Now, in this structure what you do is that if you dope this yttrium by barium atom sequentially, the structure modifies itself a little bit. So, what happens is that when you start doping barium with yttrium with barium, now yttrium is plus 3, barium is plus 2. As a result, what happens is that some of the to maintain the charge and charge neutrality as well as the stoichiometry, you create some of the Cu2 plus, which is derived by reduction of Cu3 plus. So, some of the Cu3 plus reduces to Cu2 plus state. Now, if you do that, so you have one substitution of yttrium by barium, which is anyway plus 2 plus, followed by reduction of Cu3 plus to Cu plus, the net requirement of oxygen goes down. As a result, in the parent structure you create some vacant oxygen sites, which are called as oxygen vacancies, because simply because the requirement of oxygen is gone down. In this case, yttrium 3 yttrium atoms require, yttrium is Y2O3 oxide. So, 3 yttrium atoms would require, so yttrium is plus 3. So, 3 into 3 9s, 4.5 oxygen atoms, and remaining 4.5 are required for Cu3, 3 Cu3 plus. So, total of 9 oxygen atoms are required. So, if you replace some of these by ions which are of smaller valence in nature, the number of oxygen atoms required would also be smaller. As a result, you have oxygen vacancies. However, when you keep doping this structure by yttrium, there comes a concentration at which this material becomes superconducting, and at a 92 Kelvin it has a transition temperature below which the material has 0 electrical resistance, and this is what is important about this material. And the sequence is such that, so Y3Cu3O9, you start doping by barium, it becomes YBa2 Cu3 2 plus O9. Okay. So, Cu3 has now has converted into Cu2 plus, and as a result, if you notice, the oxygen requirement has also gone down, and if you do and further reduction of Cu3 plus to Cu2 plus gives rise to YBa2 Cu2 plus Cu3 plus O7 minus X. So, some extra oxygen is missing, which is what is responsible for superconducting behavior in these materials. We will not go into superconductivity reasons at the moment, but the sequence of doping is such that it becomes superconductor at this particular. So, X is so the oxygen number is little smaller than 7 for the superconducting state, and here just a second, I will just make a modification here. This should not be all of this should not be 2 plus, this should be, so you have replaced 2 of these, so this should be 3 plus, okay, because to maintain the stoichiometry, because you have replaced 2 of the yttrium atoms by barium atoms. So, Cu will remain in 3 plus state, so that you have 1 oxygen less. So, the structure is something like this. This is your Y3 Cu3O9 structure. Cu is in 3 plus state. So, these are the YCu3 perovskite units which are stacked along the C axis. So, this would be your 001 axis of the unit cell, and what you do now is you start replacing yttrium by barium. So, 2 of these top and bottom yttrium atoms are replaced by barium, but center one still contains yttrium. So, this is your yttrium. As a result, you reduce the number of oxygen atoms. So, this becomes YBa2 Cu3 3 plus O8. So, as a result, oxygen on these sites is missing. So, this would be your back side. Like, so, if I connect these, so this would be your missing sites. So, these are your missing oxygen sites, and when you further reduce Cu3 plus to Cu2 plus, so this becomes YCBA2 Cu2 2 plus Cu3 plus O7. Some more oxygens go out, for instance these and these, and part of the copper atoms become Cu2 plus, part of them remains 3 plus. This becomes YBA2 Cu3O7, and when some more oxygen goes out, when it is 7 minus X, then it becomes a superconductor roughly at 6.85, or X is equal to approximately, or X is equal to 0.15. So, this makes so this is the structure, 1 unit cell. Now, here the important observations are, these copper atoms are 5-fold coordinated, 4 of these and 1 on top, and these copper atoms are 4-fold coordinated. So, this is one of the peculiar features of YBCO structure. Copper atoms, so Cu2 plus atoms have a 4-fold coordination. It's missing. This should be that way. The arrows have gone wrong, and it should be this one. So, these are correct arrows. So, Cu3 plus atoms have a 5-fold coordination, and Cu2 plus atoms have 4-fold coordination, and this is one of the peculiarities of this structure. Another structure is lanthanum strontium copper oxide, which is a mixture of one rock salt structure compound based on La2CuO4, which is a parent compound, which is a mixture of LaO, which is a rock salt structure compound, and LaCuO3, which is a perovskite structure compound. So, this is a mixture of rock salt and perovskite, written as LaO dot LaCuO3. Now, when you replace some of the lanthanum by strontium ions, this becomes superconducting. So, the layer by sequence, layered sequence in the structure is such that you have A4O layers followed by AO4 followed by A4O, and where A ion is nothing but your lanthanum ion, the bigger ion, and substitution of lanthanum by strontium results in a superconductor with a Tc of about 35 Kelvin. So, the structure is like this. So, you have this AO4 units, then A4O, this is A4O, then AO4, A4O, AO4. So, this is a sequential structure. So, you have these sodium chloride units, and these are the perovskite units. So, this is one perovskite layer, this is another perovskite layer shifted. If you look in front, one of them is on the back of the front one, and the whole unit will be NaCl structure. So, these are some of the specialized structure which we are not discussing in much of detail, just to give you an idea that if you apply the principles of simpler structure well enough, you can conceive even the complex structure with relative ease, so that they do not appear as complex as they look in the pictures. So, if you want to go into details, I would recommend you to read the books and understand how these structures are formed. So, in the next class, we will look at the HCP packing of anions, and we will look at the oxides which follow, or ceramic materials which follow, which are based on HCP packing of anions. Thank you.